Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is now in charge. President Muhammadu Buhari announces as he goes on a medical trip. And many presidential aspirants should have been in jail, says former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Well, this is Plus Politics. I'm Mary Ann Cole. As President Muhammadu Buhari departed the country for the United Kingdom for a medical checkup, he stated that the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, is in charge of the country and its affairs. At the moment, it has not been confirmed whether or not the President transmitted a letter to the National Assembly handing over power to the Vice President pending his return to the country. Now, when asked if his absence won't affect the state's functioning, he said, well, I do not claim to be doing the work alone. The government is fully represented. The Vice President is there, said Mr. President. Well, joining us to discuss this and more is Richard Wokocha. He's an associate professor of public law at the Rivers State University. And of course, Ayodeji Awobiyide is a legal practitioner, is also joining us. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Great. I'm sorry that I murdered your name, but I'll try to call it better next time. But I'm going to start with you, Professor. This is not the first time that the President has been urged to transmit power to his Vice President, being that that should be the modus operandi, as, you know, the Constitution prescribes. But then we've seen back and forth similar to this, even though the President is just gone for 2 weeks. Is this much ado about nothing? Are we fussing over nothing, or should this be done by the book? Professor,
no.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Yes, yes. So I think it should be done by the books. There is no reason why it should be done differently. It's a formal, regular thing. And if the president is going to be away for 2 weeks, even if it's not going under the surgeon's knife and he's not going to be unconscious, he should simply transmit power to his vice president. That's why he has a vice president. There is no reason for him not to do so. Absolutely no reason for him not to do so.
Why do you think it's very difficult for this president? Because he seems to be the one over and over that we've...
He's not going in for something serious that is going to take time, and therefore that is not necessary to do so. But that reasoning will be, in my opinion, absolutely wrong. If he's going to be out from the country and the work of the president needs to be done, he should ensure that the office can run in his absence and transmit power. It does no harm to him or the person to whom he is asked to transmit power. It's a procedure, it's a formal procedure that he should comply with.
Let me come to you, Ayodeji. A lot of people are still contemplating if the president has really sent a letter to the National Assembly or not. And then there's a buzzword that's been out there where the president did not just mention the vice president, but he also mentioned 2 other people in the cabinet, saying these people will be running the government. For you, when you heard or you read that line, what message were you getting?
Oh, thank you. I think as it relates to that news report, if we sit down here and we're only speculating about whether or not the president indeed transmitted the letter, one of the many problems of this APC government is the lack of transparency at times. And this is one of the instances when they should have been very transparent, very open about it. We would not be here debating this issue if we had seen a copy of the letter, if the Senate had confirmed to us that they received the letter, and then the Speaker had also confirmed that they received the letter from the President. So all of this is just conjecture. And from the report that I read, it says that he had handed over power to the Vice President, and of course the SGF and others would assist him. I'm not sure the report said that they will be in charge of the country together. I think it's probably the way it was reported. The vice president constitutionally is the person who takes charge after the president is out of the country on vacation. And then, of course, the government is a machinery of its own. There are people in the government that would also assist. Nobody does the work alone, like was rightly said by the president. So I do not think that he said he handed over power to the vice president and this SGF and somebody else to run jointly. I do not think that's what he meant. That's what the president said. But having said that, the vice president, of course, is in charge. Whether or not a letter was transmitted, we cannot really say because we haven't seen it. And like I mentioned, the lack of transparency from this government is one of the things that has, been a problem for the past 6 years and counting.
Legally speaking, if the vice president is not empowered through a letter that's being transmitted to the National Assembly to authorize him to run the state of affairs, what exactly can he do?
Well, I think the provisions of the Constitution are quite clear. Section 5 of the Constitution clearly vests the executive powers in the president. And of course, he can assign such functions to the vice president or any other officer of government to carry out such activities. So I do not think, even if you look at Section 145 of the Constitution, of course, there's a window, there's a 21 days, failing which you can now begin to commence proceedings to impeach him. It's only gone for about 2 weeks, that's about 14 days. According to his aides. So I believe that we're not at that point where we can panic. There's no cause for alarm yet. And like I said, all of this is still basically conjecture. If tomorrow the presidential aides come out and issue the letter, or the Senate president confirms that he indeed received the letter, then our affairs will have been taken care of.
Professor, I'm going to propose the same question to you. Without this letter, what are the powers of the vice president? Can we assume that he's piloting the affairs of the country with or without this letter? And I'm not saying that Nigeria is going to face anything tomorrow, but yes, we are facing a fuel crisis, and Nigerians are very angry at the fact that the president, who is, by the way, the Minister of Petroleum, has left the country amidst this crisis. Yes, most will say he's going to take care of his health, which is important. But what powers do the vice president, what power does he wield as we speak without that letter?
Well, take it from the point of what can he do if he has the letter? He can discharge all the functions of the president if he has the letter. But without the letter, he will be able to preside over meetings, he will be able to handle such other things as he has to do, that the president ordinarily ought to do. But functions and responsibilities that are assigned to the president, he cannot discharge those functions, specifically assigned by the Constitution to the president. He cannot discharge such functions without the letter transmitting presidential power to him.
Now, the civil rights advocacy group, Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, today chastised the president for frequent medical trips overseas. Now, I'd like to quote them directly. In a statement by the national coordinator, Comrade Emmanuel Onwubiko faulted the president, saying he perpetually travels to London for medical checkup, while leaving the health sector in Nigeria to wobble amid constant strikes and underfunding. And they also made mention of the medical tourism and the monies that we keep sending to the United Kingdom. Care to comment? Professor?
Well, okay, Prof. Yeah.
Well, first, it's a democracy and everybody is entitled to his opinion. And as citizens, they are entitled to be concerned about what we are spending as a nation in the president's health care and the president's well-being. However, you elected your president. And if your president has health challenges, but in the opinion of his doctors and those who manage his health, they think that he can find solution, or the best solution available to the best approach to it is to find experts overseas. Then it is part of what you bargain for. in voting for your president. It's sad. Every responsible country should do everything to ensure that all formal transactions and formal activities of the president are undertaken within the country, but that's not what you have. We have not been able to move our health facilities to that point. It's also a shame that we admit that by having our public functionaries, not only the president, vice governors, and their aides, we have them all the time going overseas for treatment, which is a judgment on us, a verdict on us that we are not serious. We're not a serious country, and we do not value our sovereignty. Expectedly, we should see things change from that direction, and we should see the president and other government functionaries take their treatments here in Nigeria and educate their children here in Nigeria. Those are all votes of no confidence that public administrators have no interest and have no faith in what they are administering in the country. And let's hope that we will learn that and that we will improve in how we present ourselves before the international community.
And when you say we will learn and we will improve, you make it seem like we have the powers to change it, because if you ask me, there have been protests. In fact, as we speak, there's several strike actions, the ones that are being threatened and the ones that are about to happen. And these strikes are coming up as a result of the fact that there has been failure of government on several forums, whether it be education, transport, generally. So if all of these strike actions, these conversations, these protests have not been able to yield or even arm twist our political leaders, and this is not just about President Buhari, but all our leaders subsequently who are very quick to go abroad. Let's use, for example, the former Akwa Ibom State Governor, Godswill Akpabio. I think he said he built a state-of-the-art medical facility in the state. And he had a minor health, issue, and he flew out of the country. So again, do we really have what it takes to get these people to do right by us?
It's simple. First, whatever we need, whatever medical facilities that are available anywhere in the world can be bought, and we have the wherewithal to buy it. We can also create the condition for experts. We have the manpower here, and our doctors are doing well overseas and doing fantastic things. So we can create the enabling environment and bring the facilities that are required, and they can do what they have to do here. So the question, can we learn and can we improve? Yes, there's no reason why we shouldn't. But we have just not had that political will to do so. And we think it is normal to continue the way we are doing. And I believe that's why they have continued, and they do not see anything wrong with it.
Ayodeji, I want to bring you in here. Do you agree with the professor that we do not have the political will? But again, he made mention of the fact that we elected the president. There are lots of people who say that we did not elect the president, but whatever the case may be, our leaders are our leaders. They're in place. What is stopping us from getting our leaders to be accountable to us? Because every day we sit here and have these conversations. Some of us grumble on social media. But then nothing really changes year in, year out. And this is campaign season. They're about to come tell us news stories. So is it us that's the problem, or is it the politicians?
I think I will just start from the point of President Buhari's made several trips abroad. And I would like to say categorically that it's my opinion that the president is very hypocritical in that regard. Because if you all recollect, it was very, very vocal about other political leaders at the time going abroad for medical treatment. And he did promise that he would ensure that he improves the health sector and he would not engage in medical tourism. But of course, time has shown that that was just a mere promise. And several trips that is undertaken abroad clearly evidence that. Well, as it relates to whether or not the political will is there, I want to argue with Prof that, yes, the political will is not there, but I also think that the large section of the population who actually determine who the voters are do not really care about some of these things that we are talking about. They are not, so some of them will say we are too elitist. We sit in the comfort of our offices, of our homes, and we theorize about politics and theorize about how the country should be, and why we're not exactly involved in grassroots politics. And as the saying goes, in politics, all politics is local. I'm not sure that many of the elites belong to any political party or actively involved in any grassroots movement. So, and that's why we can't really hold them accountable. Because as you can see now, some of the political actors are going from palace to palace, from state to state, paying homages and doling out whatever they need to get the job done. I do not see this same active drive from the civil society, from other interested political actors, campaigning against some of these electoral malpractices that would likely occur. So there really needs to be some form of activism from the elites. We can't just sit down and on social media and don't just complain about it. We need to be more involved in it. For instance, now we have people amongst us. When I say us, I mean those of us working class elites, in the academia, in other professions, who just think that the best option is to leave the country, travel to Canada, travel to Australia, leave the country for these politicians to continue to rule. But unless we actually realize that we all have a stake in this country, the country will not move forward. And you can see that they happened with our citizens that who were either studying or residing in Ukraine. All of a sudden, overnight, they became refugees. And that's what happens when you don't develop your own country. So we all need to get down to it together and not just leave it to the politicians. But for instance, if I take you to the Electoral Act, there's a lot required for financing elections, campaign materials. I mean, you know what it takes to undergo a tour of Nigeria. Nigeria is a very vast country. You have somebody who has done about 8 to 9 or 10 states. So tour the whole of the country is a lot of money that is required. And those monies need to be recouped as well. So we also need to put our money where our money where our mouth is. We also need to either crowdfund or get people who are actively involved, people who have integrity in these things, people who have a stake in the nation, not just leave it to the old men. I mean, one aspirant said that we have 8 years. He will do his own 8 years, and then we youths can come back and do it hours after him. So that's some confidence that he has. And that confidence is not just because he is just saying it. He's done the homework, and he believes that, going by his own calculations, he will do 8 years there. So we need to be more involved in the process.
Prof, let me come back to you. Let's, piggyback a bit on the issue of corrupt practices, which will be my second topic for today. But let's look at the outright disobedience of the Constitution or the rule of law in this country, especially by this government. The many times that we've seen the federal government, led by President Buhari, pick and choose what laws to obey. Just as Ayodeji has said, the president being hypocritical in terms of this issue of health and medical tourism. For someone who had campaigned that he was going to put an end to corruption and plug all the loopholes, someone who said he was going to fight insecurity, and from what we see, what really fuels all of these conflicts and crises at the bottom of it or at the core of it is corruption. Why do you think that this government, the one that was touted as the messiah of Nigeria, seems to be the one who's breaking most of the rules, if not all of them?
Well, first, I think we have come to terms with the fact in this country that campaign time is campaign time, and that you will hear all manner of beautiful things, and that governance is a different ballgame. Our experience in this direction has been consistent over the years. We've had, it's difficult to cite instances where campaign promises were pursued with seriousness and kept the way they were made at the times of campaign. That said, I'd like to, for myself, say that I think that the candidate that was voted in the first term was not exactly the candidate we eventually got. I believe that after the major health issue that the president had, and I must say, my age, I had not read any day of the presidency before he became president. But after that, the blood transfusion 3 times.
Oh, I think we're having a connection issue there with you, Prof. Unfortunately, you're breaking. I'm going to see if we can get Ayodeji to quickly attempt that until we can get the Prof back. Ayodeji.
Okay.
Well, I think what Prof was trying to say is that the promises that were made in 2015, I mean 2014, 2015, which made Nigerians to overwhelmingly, I would say that overwhelmingly, the president was voted into office because a lot of Nigerians at the time were very disappointed with the presidency of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. And that still remains a fact. No matter how much you try to revise history, President Jonathan, he did his best, but it wasn't good enough at the time. So when President Buhari was elected, he was elected with several promises. Everybody had high hopes, thinking that this anti-corruption Caesar, this Messiah, would not allow corruption to thrive in this country anymore. But what we have seen, I mean, is a far cry from what we expected. Although I wouldn't say that the president has failed entirely. There have been a lot of infrastructural developments all over Nigeria as well. I mean, you can give that to the president, even though some would say that it was commenced under President Jonathan. But you've seen that he's gone ahead to finish some of these things. He didn't abandon them like some other governors or other people, police officers would do. They abandoned and started their own. But he finished up all of these things, and there are a lot of gains that he has recorded. But as it relates to promises, I mean, easily you find on Twitter, you find those slogans, those banners that were held up in 2015, that they will make $1 to 140 something. Are you happy with the way Nigeria is? Are you happy with the bag of rice, the cost of a bag of rice? Are you happy with everything? But it looks like it's worse than we expected. And I think every reasonable Nigerian who is true to himself or herself knows that this president has done his best, but the best is not good enough. So it's campaign season now. We are going to have a lot of promises in the next 12 months from all and sundry. Everybody wants to put their hat in the ring and try to vie for the office. But I know that Nigeria is really a very tough country to govern in terms of what we've seen over the years. The best men have tried and failed. They all keep mentioning and referring to a cabal. That cabal has remained nameless over the years. So I think anybody that wants to be president needs to have the determination to break this cabal. And the question that you need to ask is, can anybody become president of this country without the cabal support? Like I said, the cabal is nameless and it's faceless, but they all seem to agree that it's a cabal. So we are at the mercy of these politicians. And like I said, unless we get actively involved in the process and stop our armchair criticism and our pontification, we will need to get involved and start at the grassroots level. Try and mobilize some of this, I wouldn't say illiterates, but people who are not politically savvy, people who can vote for 3,000 naira.
But Ayodeji, it's interesting that you made mention of these people who are not as politically savvy as you and I. Half the time, those of us who are in the second class or middle class seem to be the ones who sit at home and, like you say, pontificate and never really show up for, to vote. But these guys that you think are illiterate when it comes to the electoral process, they come out en masse, whether they're paid or not, they show up to vote. So does that not make us look bad one way or the other? So when we say we all have to get involved, how do we get involved? Those of us who are in the middle class, what exactly do you think is the pushback? Why are we so comfortable with just sitting down and murmuring or making excuses?
Well, I think that the reason why we're very comfortable or why we're very laid back is because some of us have some economic buffer that allows us to get away with a few things. Okay, so
do we? I mean, I'm sure that you're also affected by the fuel scarcity. So is there really a buffer for that? Oh,
okay. So I'll tell you something. You have those selling black markets. Anybody in the middle class who has some money to spend would easily get a black market for 7,000 naira. Now those poor people can't do that. They can't afford it. They need to line up and need to queue at the filling station. They don't have that luxury of being able to part with some money and buy a black market fuel jerry can and move on with their lives. Some of us can do that and pay our way through the inconvenience. These people do not have the luxury of paying their way through the inconvenience. So they are there at the market stores. They are there. They are buying. They are finding it difficult to even feed because things are expensive. I mean, some of us, I'm not sure whether Prof knows the value, how much a bag of rice is, or how much whether you even know how much a bag of rice is now. But these people know how much a cup of a derivative of rice is. They know how it has increased exponentially. They know how much Gary is now. I'm not sure if you know how much a cup of a tin of Gary is. So what I'm saying is, at the middle class, we're able to pay our way through some of these things and not be bothered about it. So we just throw money at it and move on.
Back to you, Prof. Apologies that we had that break in the communication. Quickly, let's look at the timing of the president's travel and just go, drawing from what Ayodeji has been saying, the timing of this travel. There's a lot of groaning and grinding of teeth in the country right now. First, it was the case of adulterated fuel, and then now we don't even see the fuel to buy. And just as Ayodeji said, a few people can afford the black market, but I mean, the timing of this move by Mr. President, plus the fact that, power has not necessarily been transmitted, even though it's 2 weeks, a lot can happen in 2 weeks. How insensitive is this? And really, looking at the situation of things, where do we really go from here? Because it looks like it's going from bad to worse.
It's what one would clearly and easily have said is absolutely insensitive. Especially if it is not pressing and if it is something that he could have done after this time. Just that when it borders on health, and if there are timelines and dates to be kept in medical transactions, it's a bit difficult to pass judgment. So if it is a necessary medical check on a timeline, an existing timeline from previous travels, then it will be difficult to absolutely say that he was completely insensitive. Otherwise, the timing is wrong.
But while the president was here, before he went for his medical trip, we're still yet to hear anything concrete from the president on this issue, being that he holds that office. He decided to keep that office to himself. And so every finger should point to Mr. President, shouldn't it?
Exactly. I was going to say so that as petroleum minister, this would be an insensitive time to travel. It is not a necessary medical travel, a medical trip that is necessary. It will be an insensitive time to do so. There may not be very pressing things in other areas, but this one rests on his table. And while he is petroleum minister, it will clearly be insensitive, except if he has the defense of explaining that it's a necessary appointment, that is a necessary follow-up from other previous medical trips on which we spent money, so that it doesn't become wasted money. That would be the only defense.
Finally, before I let you go, gentlemen, have we learned? How do you think that Nigerians are tired enough to be sensible as to how we pick our next set of leaders, or do we just, keep making more space in the wall as we're being pushed to it?
I do not think we have shown evidence of good learning. We have had a lot of lessons over the years. We've not quite translated them into useful experience that results in decisions that we can see from our actions. So I think we have not shown enough understanding of the experience we have had and what we should have learned from them. Do we expect much? I do not expect much. All I can say is that the new Electoral Act makes some promises and has some openings, which, if we utilize them well, I'm sure will lead to improvement in the kind of choice and decision we make. Let's always remind ourselves, even when it looks like there is nothing we can do, we must always ask ourselves, why do they buy up our cards? Why do they buy up our PVCs at that time if what we do with the PVC is not useful? I think there's a lot of work to be done to change the psyche of the people and reassure them that, look, you can make decisions by effective use of your card. If we do sufficient sensitization, we may be able to get some positive results.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ayodeji, before we go, quickly.
Well, I think I also agree with Prof that we need to buckle down to it.
Somebody's television is on. Can you turn off your TV, please?
So I think we need to get involved in the process actively. We need to and get involved at the grassroots level and not just, continue to, like I said, give our own theories about how this can work. We need to be involved. And I think that all people at the middle class, upper class Nigerians need to finance and need to fund this grassroots movement, sensitize those who need, who actually sell their votes, that we all have a stake in this. If like Prof said, if our PVCs are not important, they won't be buying it. They won't be selling. They won't be sharing rice and sharing oil and sharing money on election day. It's because the vote actually counts. So we can't just sit down in our houses and use election day as a day to rest or to read the newspaper. It should be a day to be out there on the streets to take back our government. And I think that's what we should do.
Well, I want to say thank you to Professor Richard Wokocha. He is a professor of public law at the Rivers State University, and Ayodeji Awobiyide is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being part of the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you for staying with us. We will take a short break now, and when we return, former President Olusegun Obasanjo states that some of the presidential aspirants are supposed to be in prison. We'll get to find out why. Stay with us.
With regards to the electoral laws, well, I do not care too much about those laws as much as I care about the human resources that are going to conduct elections. And INEC, as it is presently composed, is made up of people who do not have the credibility to conduct free and fair elections. I'm not interested in zoning. I hope that Nigeria would continue to search for competent Nigerians who can run this country effectively, efficiently, in a just and egalitarian manner, so that these ethnic jingoists will not have a say in how we run our lives. We have done this whole rotational presidency for 20 years now. We've taken the presidency, Nigeria has taken the ruling class has taken the presidency to as many places as possible. But what they have not taken the presidency to is the zone of competency, zone of justice, zone of men of integrity. So if we make the mistake again of zoning to another incompetent character simply because of the location of his village, well, we will regret it.
So we are saying that what obtained about 60 years ago cannot confidently obtain now. So with respect to grazing routes, as a matter of fact, we're in a modern civilization. Modern civilization does not really give room for somebody taking cattle from the north down to the Port. Efforts must be made. These boys that are taking these cattle, they should go to school. In fact, when you look at pastoral nomadism, it's one that took place about 100, 200 years ago. There's no civilized world today you find people following cattle.
There's a great deal of reform required in the national security sector, especially with the police. I don't see any serious reforms going on. Where I would have said maybe a lot of money is going on into training, this, that, and so on. No. In nearly every state, where today we have the military complementing the effort of the police on ground, we know how much state governments are spending. And that is why some of the governors are saying, allow us to have our own police force. And then this money, or this entire monies we are pumping at the various state levels, will go into our own police. The federal government could lay out the guidelines. We're not saying give them a free hand. Our politicians are not as mature as that. Governors, they are like children, they are like little people.
Things are shying away from rotation of power because in less than, 1 year to the polls, none of the parties, to the best of my knowledge, have come out to say we are picking our candidate or this is the partners we will support. And I must say this, you see, democracy, whether we like it or not, is is a government of numbers, is a product of numbers, I mean to say. And the fact is that the northern part of Nigeria still holds sway in terms of voters' power. So it holds on any candidate, whether it's coming, the candidate, particularly candidates coming from the south, to romance, excuse my word, to romance the north. Like what I have Tinubu doing at the moment, you know, for every little thing here and there in the north. He was in Zamfara before he traveled to London and so on. And even the vice president, whether he has declared or not, but you see him romanticizing the north. He was in Kano State for a public lecture 2 days ago, but he used the opportunity to visit the family of Hanifa that was murdered some weeks back. So I think it is very important that any candidate, particularly that wants to win the presidential election, must embrace the North.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Vicky November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
Former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo has announced that many politicians jostling for one political office or the other ahead of the 2023 general elections ought to be in jail by now for corrupt practices. He argued that if the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, and the Economic Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, had done their jobs properly with the support of the judiciary, many politicians aspiring for political positions and their supporters should have been jailed. Now, the former president insisted that Nigerians must learn from the events of the past and put aside sentiments in choosing the next president of the country. He said that each contender must be properly x-rayed and profiled. Well, joining us to discuss this is Tunji Abdulhamid. He's a legal practitioner. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdulhamid, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Marianne.
Interesting. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has been known to be very vocal. At some point in time, we knew him for his letter writing. And now, as he turns 80-something, he has decided to speak about the politicians who are running for office. Now, a lot of people might agree with him. A lot of other people might disagree with him. Some people have said that, well, the former president needs to look at himself while he lumps all these other people as corrupt leaders. Can we say that former President Olusegun Obasanjo is one way or the other with clean hands in terms of corrupt practices?
I think sometimes in Nigeria we miss the point by looking at the messenger rather than looking at the message. Yes, President Obasanjo may also have been in power, may also have a issue of...
Mr. Abdulhamid, are you there? Mr. Abdulhamid, are you there? Apologies, I think that we have lost that connection. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll fix that. Stay with us.
In raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you are looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on PlusTvAfrica, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
It's still Plus Politics. Apologies for the break in connections. Well, we're still being joined by Barrister Tunji Abdulhamid. Now, Barrister Abdulhamid, we were talking about the personality of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and you said something about not shooting the messenger and taking the message. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Go ahead, please.
I was trying to explain that President Obasanjo has done well in terms of attempt to fight corruption. If you recall, Obasanjo was the person that created the EFCC. He was the man that created the probably ICPC. He has done a lot in terms of establishing institutions to fight corruption. The President has done that. He did not also do well in some area, probably based on partner interest or partner aspiration. You know, he sometimes allowed himself to be used. In other words, to achieve his own, he created by him, EFCC for instance. At the time when Babu was in charge, was led to be using Babu to fight political opponents. So in that project, I believe that Obasanjo has not also immune from alleged corruption or for alleged lack of
Barrister Abdulhamid, are you still there? Can you hear me? I think that we have another disconnection. Barrister Abdulhamid, can you hear me now? Unfortunately, we have lost our connections with the barrister. We'll try to get him back. But quickly, while we wait to get him back, we'll bring you some reports from Nigerians on the street. Stay with us.
I feel he's playing mind games. He's just trying to play mind games with ourselves. If he's going to say that, then he also has to be included also in being jailed also. But he's going to exclude himself and take other people. Then I just feel he's just playing mind games. He's just trying to play with us.
I don't think all of them deserve to be in jail. But most of them deserve to be in jail.
Like who and who?
If I'm to mention names, we all know what is happening in the country. We know the situation of the country, and we know that these people are past leaders. Most of them that are contesting for president, they are people we know. So I cannot, if I start mentioning names, the list is very long. Okay, Tinubu is contesting, Oji Zakali is coming out, Richard Okorocha is deciding that he wants to come out. So all these people, Atiku is deciding to come out. So all these people, they are people that we know, they are people that have the capacity to change this country. And they did not do anything about it. Now they are coming back for us to vote for them. So why? What do you have to offer?
No, I don't share that same sentiment with him. Because for him to come up, as a president, for him to come up to tell the Nigerians or to tell the whole world that the presidential aspirant should be jailed is totally wrong. Because if he's even talking about jailing anybody in this country, should be the former president, or the whole former president of Nigeria should be the one to go to jail, not the aspirant. Because we believe that those who are coming up to contest, or the whole aspirant, they have one or two ideas that they will come, that they are trying to use for this country to change things. So why would he just come up and say, okay, all the whole presidential aspirants should be jailed?
I disagree with him. If all the presidential aspirants should go to jail, Obasanjo too should go to jail too. Because everything started from his regime. So either the PDP or the APC, none of them are clean. So if Obasanjo should say that all the presidential aspirants should go to jail, that they should start from him. That's my take.
Well, we're still being joined by Barrister Tunji Abdulhamid. Unfortunately, Barrister, I think that the connections are not friendly with you today. But you heard what our respondents on the streets have said. The last person said that the former president should be pointing that finger to himself. Some other people are also calling out some of the people who are trying to run for presidency, saying that these people had a shot at doing the right thing in the country, but they didn't do it. What is your take?
Yeah, I think it's also culpable, like what I was saying at that time. It's culpable because he was in charge, he has the FCC, he has ICPC. I'm not aware or that he was able to at least 1, 2, 3, or 4 people were convicted during his regime. About 10 people, and I'm talking about political, what's it called? People in his cabinet. For instance, I am aware in his group that about what he said about Atiku. He made several allegations about Atiku being corrupt and this and that. I did not see him when he was in charge to provide any charge.
But the vice president at the time was his vice president and had immunity, so he couldn't have prosecuted him while he was in office, could he?
Yeah, I know he was his vice president, but thereafter, when did he raise those issues at that time while he was in charge? No. It was after he left office that was raising those issues. So if you have raised that issue, probably impeachment would have been instead against the president at that time. So there are so many allegations against people who are corrupt in this country that are being but I agree with him that if EFCC and ICPC are doing their job the way it should be done, so many people today will be in jail. Like I said, there are so many people that have been made against. We heard about 2019. Bullion found entry something people's house. Nothing has happened up to today. We hear an aspirant to a senior presidential aspirant that was asked to drop his ambition so that his allegation against him will be dropped. It was dropped. We hear there are so many issues like that, and we hear former chairman of the APC say that once you join the APC, you're seen that forgiving. That is done. So I'm not saying it's limited to this regime alone. Even the previous regime, this happens. But to that extent, I agree with him that look, some of them are not. Some of them, if EFCC and the ICPC are doing their best, their job the way it should be done, they may likely not be in charge to be able to even contest election as it today. They may even be favoring one trial or the other. But unfortunately, that's not the case, because ICPC and AFCC today are being used as an instrument to fight opposition and fight people who are not in support of what is going on in the country, support of the government of the day. We see how CCT was used against Saraki while he was state president to be able to say one thing or the other, and then we see how certain people are being pardoned based on similar allegations. So you see, we are inconsistent in terms of fighting corruption in this country, and in fact of EFCC and ICPC doing its job. They align with people who are in government in power. They use kid gloves to handle them. If you are in opposition, to be a different ball game. We see all these of Carlos case. They restored I can't remember his name now, that withdrew from the Senate presidential what's it called? At that time, he was trying to compete with he can be part of, and the next day, all the charges against him were withdrawn. So that's what we are seeing in this country. So I agree with him to that extent that too. If certain people who are coming up today to say they are politicians, they are big politicians, they are contest election, one position or the other. But also, it's not talking about the presidential election, other area of position, out of Senate president, Senate and governorship election. Some of them don't even be positions to contest it if our law has been applied. All these are just left by chance.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, time is not on our side. I want to say thank you. Tunji Abdulhamid is a legal practitioner, and he joined us live from Lagos. Thank you for speaking with us. We appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you all for being part of the conversation tonight. Don't forget you can catch a replay of the show on our YouTube channel. It's PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I'm Mariana Kun. I'll see you tomorrow as we continue to talk for development. Have a good evening.
It's scary, isn't it? Putting yourself out there, ignoring the voices telling you you can't. Moments like these are when your fight or flight response kick in. Will you step aside? Or will you go for it? After all, what's the worst that could happen? So, keep trying. Don't stop. Don't give up. Push harder. Give it everything you've got. Because nothing is really impossible when you dig deep. Believe in yourself and go for it. Aladana, available in many variants to nourish you every step of the way.
My name is Yemi Sholade. I am an actor, and proudly so. Here is my good old days story. I recall as a toddler growing up in Surulere in Lagos, ours was a life of communal living. Every family knew one another, and the children played together in the neighborhood. We played football, we rode bicycles, we flew the kite, we even climbed mango trees, guava trees, and went after the masquerades. Calabar masquerades, the one we called Ojuju Calabar in those days. Interestingly, in those days, electricity was 24 hours constant. Public water works was efficient. Free-flowing water drawn from these taps were filled in bottles in our refrigerators. No one talked about typhoid and other waterborne diseases. So good old days. Days when houses had no fences. We would sit across those low fences at sunset and gist all days till night.